Hey everyone, welcome to Raising Vibrations and your Simon today. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the full moon in Taurus, and this is actually a lunar eclipse that's taking place. And this is for the 18th and 19th of November, 2021. So I hope you guys are well and that this video finds you at a place in yourself that is fairly empowered. I know that the world at the moment is, as it always is, going through a tremendous amount of chaos, but there is also a profound level of transformation energy that is available for us at the moment. So if you're seeking that, if you're seeing the potential to, in a sense, metamorphosize your sense of self into clearing out your karma and being able to work on things within yourself, healing the dynamics, becoming more integrated, then you're at the right place, the right time on earth with regards to this. It's personally how I feel. There is, I'm going to say it, there's a lot to talk about in this video. Some very deep themes that I feel are going to help us process this full moon. Because it is a eclipse, we can expect to see these themes play out in our lives for the next 6 months. And we also are going to be doing a new moon solar eclipse video as well. So I'm going to give you some information on that, and that will come out a bit later, and we'll pair the two together so that you can see how both the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse will influence not only for you personally, but for the collective as well. So like I said, this is a lunar eclipse, so we can expect to be going through a period of time, so probably from today onwards, the 17th here, all the way up until around the sort of 24th, 23rd, we can really feel the presence of this lunar eclipse taking place. So what is it, right? What's going to happen with this lunar eclipse? What's Taurus all about? What is the nature of the squares? What are they saying? And I think that, when it comes to the message that both Jen and I have sat with, we've kind of tuned in with, and we've got a sense of what we think is going to take place. So there's many themes to this process. Okay, there's many themes to this lunar eclipse. I think the biggest theme is, what does it feel like to begin to understand and connect with your own inner sense of guidance system that is formed and informed by your values, okay? Right? What you consider to be important in your life, what is essential for you. So you can even go from this point over here and start to use this full moon energy and see, just take a kind of bird's eye panoramic view of your life at the moment and ask yourself, what is it that I'm interacting with that is reflecting a sense of value in my life? Am I getting value from the experience? Is it invoking a sense of meaning or inspiration or purpose? And if you're coming to this point and saying, you know what, no, that's not the case, then this lunar eclipse presents the question, why do you have it still, right? Or maybe consider repurposing it, or resharing it, or getting rid of it, and being able to assess your life and start to look at the things that are around you, and of course internally, what is around you and how you relate to that. Okay, so what I meant internally is how you relate to these objects, these relationships that you have to these things, and begin to ask those questions. So that's the first thing. It's right. How are you in alignment with your own inner self? And how are you informing your life, your choices, your decisions, the way that you're seeing things in a way that is rooted in these values that you have, right? What is essential? What is purposeful? So another big theme that comes along with this process and the message as well is, what does it feel like to be in alignment with your own individual structure? Okay, so you all know that, at least if you're following the astrology, you know that there's this kind of concept, this sense of what is called the Aquarius age, or individuation. I talk about individuation quite a lot. And what essentially we're referring to here is a shift in energetics where the idea about life and the way that we perceived it was very much collective. Whereas this new pattern that is essentially emerging through us and rupturing through our consciousness and into our awareness, it is very much about your individual path, your own individual relationship to yourself, your own inner sense of direction, right? Who are you in relation to everything else? What's your personal story? So these energies at the moment, Mars in Scorpio, Saturn, Jupiter, and Aquarius, and of course Uranus and Taurus, is creating and reflecting the individuation process. So how are you in deep resonance with who you are individually, right? Coming into leadership with that, coming into alignment with that, right? How do you lead with that? And of course, the way to which we can connect with that individual sense is by becoming aware of the value structure that we have, the um, the way that we define things, the way that we value stuff, the way that we consider things essential, right? What is the purpose of it? So it's building our sense of self, or your sense of self, around these sort of labels that I've shared with you right now, and themes. Okay, so this energy is very, very directive towards what is your individual direction. And of course, for all of us right now, it comes with some complexity. And this is the third piece over here that I feel is deeply important, I think, to understand, but also to facilitate an accelerated healing process that is occurring for us as a result of these energies that are essentially moving through us, as I said, moving through us into our awareness, and then we are anchoring them. We are taking that awareness and we're bringing it into the body. And that is what's transforming the landscape of our world, right? Does everybody follow me with what I'm saying with that? So this piece that I'm putting across is, how do we interact with a changing world where the value structure of our lives, what we consider important, what we consider special to you, what do you consider special to you, right? What is valuable to you? What do you prioritize in your life, right? These are the types of questions. And so as you begin to get connected to that, you also start to separate from the collective ideal. And this collective ideal that I'm referring to is kind of the societal structure of expectations or responsibilities that you may have thought that you needed to take on at a younger part of your life, right? Or the world said, in order to be loved, you should be successful, right? This is the kind of messaging I'm referring to. So the conditioning around your environment when you were growing up, or what the world suggests or says you should do, versus where you are internally. So do you see what I'm talking about here, right? So this outer world of collective, this is what you should do kind of thing, or this is how it should look, etc., versus what's really internally within you, right? And there's we're at different stages. Each person is at a different stage in their process. And so when you take your sense of self, or where you are within your own process, and you lay that sense of self over the landscape of expectations to make your parents happy, or to make society happy, or whatever, then you can see that there's a schism taking place, and that looks like internal judgments. I'm failing at this, I haven't done good at that, and such. So this is very much also part of this lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, the current energy at the moment that we've been living through for a long period of time. And it's all reshaping itself, and it's creating an open landscape for us to interact with from a refreshed space, from something that is refreshed, right? Getting rid of old structure and then kind of building in structure that is more organic to your authenticity. Okay, so that's the kind of message that comes along with this. How do you live and begin to connect with what your resources are, what it is that's essential to you, what do you prioritize, what your value is, what do you want with your life as opposed to what you've been told, and then being able to begin to make these choices around this and connect with that within yourself so that you lead more with your actual flow, because that's very much what the the new moon in Sagittarius is going to be about, right? Is really getting rid of and recognizing where the distractions are, and then coming into your own truth, right? What is your truth? What is the version of reality that you subscribe to that allows you to make sense of your life, right? And so, what is it that resonates versus something that distracts you? So, becoming more and more clearer on those differences allows you to be more in flow. So, this is the point here, right? This new moon in Sag will really bring illumination into how that flow can actually work for us. So, before we can even get into that space, we need to be able to know what it is that is driving us at a deeper or biological level, right? Our essential needs. And then at a more sort of aspiration level, what is it that we believe to be the thing that we want to aspire to? So what values do we choose to have? What relationships do we want to have in our lives and such? Okay. So that's the kind of scope of what we see and perceive this full moon to be, plus a little bit of the solar eclipse in the sun. So what I want to do is I want to jump into the chart work for us. We're going to explain some chart work stuff, and then we'll come back and I'll elaborate on some of the themes that I was talking about in the chart work itself. So let's do that right now. Okay, so let's have a look at the lunar eclipse in Taurus. This is the chart. And as you can see, quite a lot of things that are going on in this chart. So lots of oppositions between planets that we can see there. And we can also see some squares that are taking place, particularly with Saturn and Uranus. We've been seeing that square take place for quite some time. And we've also got Jupiter that's squaring the sun and the moon, which is very significant. Okay, we've got a planet, that's Jupiter, that is forming this square to the sun and the moon. So for those of you that are new to the channel and you're learning astrology, right, I'm just going to quickly help us out here with something. So a square that's indicated by that is a tension aspect, and it induces evolutionary changes, okay? And the way that this happens is you imagine that there are like two forces that are pushing against each other, and one force needs to give way to another force, okay? So the tension that we feel within ourselves, or the tension that we feel when we see these squares, is a sense of something new is trying to emerge and break through. And that means that there is something that also needs to give way, right? So old conditioning or old patterns giving away to new establishing patterns, like something new that wants to emerge. Okay, that's what a square is. The opposition, right, reflected here by Mars and Uranus, and of course, we've got as well the moon and the sun, even Mercury and the moon. The oppositions are two forces in polarity, and they're at a tug of war against each other, okay? They're pulling at each other. And what we want to do is we want to see unity. We want to find unity. We want to see collaboration between those two forces that are sitting opposite each other, okay? And the way that we do that is by seeking to see the integration of the sign, the planet, in the other sign. So what I mean by that is we want to see where we can see Scorpio in Taurus. Where can Scorpio learn about Taurus, integrate Taurus? So integrating the polarity is where unity exists. Okay, and we got a conjunction, not a conjunction, a trine. These trines here existing between, here we got a beautiful trine between Uranus and Venus that's happening there. And then we also have a trine between Neptune and the Sun and Mercury, and eventually Mars will also come into that trine. And trines are energies that are supportive, right? These planets communicate with each other in a very fluid way, and think of them as supporting cast, like they help us integrate the tension aspects. Okay, so that's what that represents or reflects. Okay, so now that we've got a kind of basic sense of the aspects, let's go have a look at the priority of planets that I think could be influential for us to know and to learn from. So the first one I'm going to look at is this phasal relationship between Venus and Pluto, and also Venus squaring Chiron. Okay, Venus and squaring Chiron that you can see there. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the phasal relationship, right? And the phasal relationship between Venus and Chiron is of a crisis in consciousness, right? So last quarter square. So it indicates within us this feeling or this sense of wanting to break out of a pattern, okay? Right? We're wanting to break out of a pattern. So this is the impulse that's emerging between these two planets. And you can see that if you know your astrology, Capricorn archetype is about structure and Aries archetype is about freedom. So freedom from the structure, right? Freedom from something that is holding us in place. Capricorn also reflects the structure that has been established, which means it is coming from the principles of the past. It's coming from the principles of something that is pre the time or the moment, right? Pre the future. So we can see here again that this square between Venus and Chiron is bringing to us this innate desire to want to break free from something that is old, free from something that has already been established but doesn't resonate anymore. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, the Venus quality obviously brings in this sense of value, sense of what am I attracting in my life, right? What am I bringing into my life? How do I receive? How do I allow myself to interact with something and receive? Right? How do I form attachments as well? So if you're putting this together, you can see how are we at this point in time, how is this energy reflecting a desire to want to free yourself from attachments, free yourself from pre-existing structures that you have formerly found value in, that you formerly found sense of meaning in, right? Or you prioritized, or you considered essential. Okay. Now, the Chiron piece over here brings to the surface a very emotional memory. Okay. Something along the lines of, where we have given permission for an attachment or attachments or relationships that we have attached or formed to, that in the past maybe were made out of unconscious choices, or were made out of parts of ourselves that were not really true, but were more formed or shaped because that's what we thought we needed to do, or that's what we were told to do, or that's what we were encouraged to do, right? So there's a lot of emotional processing with this Venus square Chiron that's coming up to the surface for us regarding these deep layers of emotional and psychological attachment, okay? And along with this is the process of grief, right? Letting grief be with us as you begin to question and let go of certain choices, decisions, attachments, ways of relating in the past that no longer resonate with you, okay? So you can see how that message is really clear there. Now, at a cultural level, this is a really profound thing, because what you're going to see here with this energy is, of course, a few things, right? One, if you think about a deep Plutonian cycle that's been taking place for a long period of time, Pluto is in Cancer at the Capricorn at the moment, but Pluto was in Cancer, right? And this whole entire cycle over here between Pluto and Cancer all the way up to Pluto and Capricorn has reflected the cultural shift that we are moving through and going through in the world in which we are living in right now. So what do I mean by that? So if you see that there are tremendous amounts of changes that we have in our perception towards institutions or governance, or the way that we choose to structure our lives, the way that we use our time, the way that we recognize emotional realities, right? So there's a lot of cultural narratives that are changing at the moment around what we define and what we constitute as the correct way or the right way, or boundaries. And a lot of conditioning is occurring, or deconditioning is occurring with this Pluto in Capricorn relative to, say, 1930s, 1940s, right? There's a lot of changes. Like if you think about just going to school in the 1940s, right, you were told this is what you should do, this is how you should do it, and don't question it. Whereas today, there's a lot more emphasis on the emotional reality of a person and trying to find how we can, navigate this minefield of a transition that we are in at the moment. Where is the boundary between something that is, causing emotional distress to somebody, and the response being, hey, that must have been really difficult, I can understand why that could be upsetting to you, versus just suck it up, right? Emotional repression versus emotional acknowledgement. So you can see here that this pattern with this Pluto that's going across like that for these times is really, in my eyes at least, that's what I'm bringing across here. It's really reflected the cultural shift. And for those of you that are born with Pluto in Libra, you'll know what I'm talking about, particularly because as you begin to process your own relationship to your parents and how that relationship was, you can see that there's the schism between, the conditioning in you of this is how it should be done versus what you think and know to be true within yourself. And because Pluto, the Pluto Libra generation are the halfway point of this over here, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because this Venus is moving through Capricorn, and of course it squares this generation. And it's not on this chart particularly, but this generation will very much 1971 to 1984. You'll feel this sense of wanting to rebalance the way that relationships work. And then obviously going onwards, we all recognize Pluto and Scorpio generation, abandonment, betrayal, trauma associated with it and such. So there's a cultural shift that's taking place. And where we are today in relation to this larger cycle that I've been sharing with you has to do with the transition and the shifting of social norms, social values, social structures. And we do see in the world right now few places where there is a very strong dominance of this is what you should do kind of attitude, right? And of course, there's a tremendous amount of pushback that is coming back saying, trying to figure out where our liberties lie. And that's very much what this aspect over here is doing. And of course, because this energy is coming into focus, it's going to be a lot more like you're going to see it more in the collective, right? It's going to be felt by everybody individually, but as a collective, you're also going to see that tension exists between wanting to kind of really remove our investments or people's investments in structures that no longer represent value or purpose for you in any way, or it's not essential. Part of that experience, of course, is trying to navigate the trauma that comes along with these experiences, because there is much, right? Feelings of unacknowledgement, et cetera, et cetera. And so your and my emotional healing work that comes along with this is recognizing within yourself what choices or boundaries did you agree to, or expectations you agreed to, that when you really thought about what you felt about it, you would actually go, you know what, I didn't want this to begin with at all, right? So, or I didn't even know I had a choice. That being a big keyword, I didn't even know I had a choice. So this energy at the moment is really prominent and relevant, and of course it's one layer of a deeper story that's going on. So let's jump on to the Mars-Uranus opposition that's taking place here. There you go. That's the opposition. And so whenever you're trying to understand Uranus, you've got to see it as the energy that is pushing energy or pushing material, like, awareness from beneath the surface or from the unseen world into our reality. So, and we know how that works through how we feel about things. So we can subtly be anxious about stuff or uncomfortable about certain things, or we may feel certain stresses within our emotional field. And that's Uranus kind of bringing things to the surface for us to look at that are maybe disembodied or are not able to be fully integrated within us. So Uranus and Taurus is doubling down on that, right? There are, threads of innovative technology that are coming through. There are threads of innovation in ways in which we understand our resources and our economy, things like that. But there is also, on a personal level, a material coming through to us to ask the question, right? What do you essentially consider to be important? What do you consider to be valuable or not, right? So that's there. And Mars is an energy that very much wants to accelerate things. So you have these two energies, right? Uranus that's sitting around saying, "Hey, let's cause chaos, right? Let's create unpredictability." And Mars is like, "Yeah, let's do it. It's like, whoa, that's a lot of energy pushing through and emerging through into our awareness. So be mindful of the fact that this energy can sometimes cause these types of experiences of unforeseen or unexpected scenarios. And you've got to go with it, right? Because that's what it is. It's bringing to the surface our unconscious emotional attachments. It's bringing to the surface where our insecurities lie, where our values are, what we consider to be important for us or not. And we get that sensitivity with these planets in Scorpio for us to really feel deeply into it. Okay, to really feel deeply into it. And what are we feeling deeply into? We're feeling deeply into this Venus squaring Chiron. We're feeling deeply into where do we place our time, our emotions, our value? Where do we place our sense of purpose and things? What direction do we want to choose to go? And it is also bringing to the surface what we no longer want to carry with us, what we no longer need to carry with us, what cultural conditioning, parental conditioning, economic conditioning do you carry with you that, in a sense, reinforces a limited belief or anything. You just fill in the gap, right? I've talked about this quite a lot, but this time, this energy now is really allowing us to dig deep. Okay. And of course, because Venus is ruled by Uranus, the other way around, sorry, Uranus is ruled by Venus because Uranus is in Taurus. Taurus is associated with Venus. What we have here is this trine, not only, so they have very clear communication, but also what it's bringing to the surface because of this receptivity between the two is a sense of how our deep value structure is being affected, A, B, bringing you into alignment with what is essential and what you resonate with, but C, also speaking to setting the tone for this Venus retrograde. Okay, Venus is going to go retrograde, if I'm not mistaken, I think on the 19th of December. I'm not 100% sure, but 19th of December, around about that time. And Venus is also going to conjunct Pluto. So when you want to understand this Uranus-Mars opposition, you've got to see it in the context of what Venus is about to do. Because Venus is about to connect to Pluto. So there's going to be some deep emotional memory that's going to, memory or pain or something is going to come to the surface for you to eliminate, right? To process through, to get to process through, to accept. And once it hits that Pluto, some form of cut or elimination will need to take place. And it's going to retrograde back all the way into Sag. And we get an opportunity to deeply reflect on what these individual needs are. What is it that we truly value? And then when Venus goes direct again, it will cross over Pluto again. And so we'll have this, there's going to be this massive transformation around value, resources, feelings of being able to have abundance, but also scarcity. Also not being able to trust in your inner system. So this passage of time right now is, these themes are not, they're not light-hearted, but they are also loaded with tremendous amount of transformation. If you can tap into that, then you're flying high. If not, it doesn't mean that life's going to be like bad or anything. It's just that we're really going to be sensitive to where our resources get placed, where our time gets placed, and so on. So Capricorn and Venus archetypes are very much associated with slowing down, taking stock of what you have, slowing down. Can't promote this enough. Really, really need to slow down and take a moment and really sit with and digest and chew what you're dealing with in your life right now. Okay, because that's what will help allow yourself to place the material that's energetically and emotionally coming to the surface and saying, I don't need to figure it out in one day. Just need to process this in the moment. Okay. So we know that Sagittarius, the Gemini Sagittarius nodes are going to be shifting into Taurus. Okay, there's it there. We know they're going to be shifting into Taurus very soon. And so this lunar eclipse was also, in a sense, setting the stage for this nodal shift that's going to take place. And we're going to move away from, cultural ideals and your like how you perceive the world and what you value and what you consider to be valuable in that way. We're going to shift to, well, how we language that. That's the key word I was wanting to put across, is how we language these things, right? What do we choose to subscribe to? Now, with the nodes going into Taurus, we're going to start asking a very similar question, not so much what am I subscribing to based on what I believe, but why am I subscribing to this based on what it is of the value it brings to me, the essence it allows me to feel? Do you choose things out of your life just because, or do you choose things because they reflect something of essential nature? Yeah. So there's a lot of information I bet there's on the internet around the node shifting as well. We will bring some content out as well on it. But for now, just know that this lunar eclipse is really setting the stage for the next 6 months. And it's definitely setting in the stage for how we're going to transition into the Scorpio-Taurus axis, which is very different to Sagittarius and Gemini. Sag and Gemini are very sort of masculine, going out there, exploring archetypes, gathering information, talking, to something very deep and earthy and nourishing and complex and feeling orientated. Those nodes are going to change, right? The tone's going to change. And again, for all of us, it's going to come into what's actually really empowering to you. And that's what I want to shift onto with Jupiter over here and the sun on Mercury and the South Node. Okay, whenever you have a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse, okay, the sun and moon are always aligned with the nodes. So the solar eclipse is going to land on the South Node over here, and the lunar eclipse is landing here. So when we have a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse, it's always aligned with the nodes. So sun in Scorpio, moon in Taurus, square Jupiter, Aquarius over there. And what you have here, again, is this dynamic tension between holding on to the past, a fear of something, holding on to certain beliefs or ideals, or attached to them, should I say, and the freedom that comes along with exploring and being able to be in a new landscape. And so the social landscape is going to change, and you're going to see over the next 3 months a tremendous amount of confusion internally within people, and then of course reflected in the collective. And there's going to be a swinging between sort of attachments of the past and recognition and realization of trying to do something and move something forward. Okay. And the reason why it's confusion, and this is because it has to do with the way that we see things, right? What do we have faith? This is another big question that will come along with this energy, is do you have faith to move forward and believe in yourself? Do you have faith to believe in your trajectory, to believe in your own individual truth, right? And again, that's why you're slowing down. You're really digesting this. You're really looking at and objectifying your ideas and your beliefs and your truths, and asking yourself, is this really true for me, right? And so there is a way in which these luminaries are bringing in this Jupiter aspect. Again, Jupiter is the South Node ruler. So you can see here that the luminaries are bringing Jupiter into focus as the node. I mean, you can see this beautifully. As the South Node, which is ruled by Sagittarius, which is a Jupiter function, there's the South Node. And then Mercury is the ruler of the North Node. And both of these planets, both Jupiter and Mercury and the Sun and the South Node, all in a conversation with each other. There's the North Node and the Moon. And this all in a conversation with each other, so that the whole entire nodal axis is deeply illuminated. Do you see that? Yeah. Let me do it one more time. The nodes are changing. Jupiter is associated with the South Node. Mercury is associated with the North Node. And then look what's in between them, right? They're all in alignment. They're all in a conversation. What's the conversation about? Conversation is, like I was saying right in the beginning, right? What do you value? What do you hold to be true? What is your sense of purpose? How do you have faith in that journey? And how are you aligning with your essential needs, right? What's your individual trajectory? So this energy is bringing this to the surface for us to look at, to connect with, but it is also bringing to the surface things at a cultural level in which we are fracturing away from, deconditioning from, releasing from, and emerging and merging with something internally within yourself. You will know what that is fundamentally needs to change, or it needs to move forward, or you need to let go of it. Yeah. So massive metamorphosis taking place right now. And like I said, again, ideal cultural reconditioning, building new foundations, deeply changing the collective consensus way of doing things, because this energy will reflect a different way in a consensus world. It will reflect a different way in an individuated world, and it will reflect itself a different way in a sort of spiritual way, right? What's this individual journey reflecting for you? What do you see the collective doing in terms of innovation? And where do you see the general populace agreeing to the script, right? So there is a lot of change taking place. And again, the message for you individually is what is occurring for you? What is the internal landscape in you? How is that changing? How are you objectifying what you believe to be true based on a value, based on your emotional attachment to it? And how can you begin to ask yourself, is this really true for me? Yeah. Is this really, do I really want this in my life? Or do I really have value that and such? Okay. All right. So we'll move back to the main screen and I'll finish the conversation with you guys over there. So welcome back. I really hope that firstly, you found a tremendous amount of value in what I've been sharing, how I broke down the astrology for you, and that you were able to find something within what I'm sharing that kind of jarred or created an internal sense of questioning that allowed you to reflect on how you feel about things in your life. And maybe even it promoted an opportunity or an insight to shift into something new for you, or to see how that relates to you in your own life. It's very important that you take that experience or what I'm sharing with you and then try to translate in where that's existing for you, right? So it lands within your reality. You can start to see these themes and these archetypes play out in your life, and you can begin to process them with these astrological eyes, as it were. So yeah, like I said, I really hope that you got some value from that over there. My final thoughts for us just on this full moon in Taurus is, for the next sort of 2 weeks between now and the next new moon, right, the solar eclipse, just to understand that when we have a lunar eclipse, there's a lot of information or a lot of awareness that can be eclipsed by obviously the luminaries, right? So there's things that we may not necessarily see. So don't give yourself a hard time during this phase if you feel that there are, I don't know, events or circumstances in your life that are showing up where there's no clarity, because essentially this is a darkened phase. This is why it's a lunar eclipse pattern of, here's where we're going to grow. So when the solar eclipse arrives, it gives us full illumination of something. And when we have this lunar eclipse and solar eclipse pattern formed, right, then we can be able to take what we understand of the pure awareness of the sun in the solar eclipse and we apply it to the lessons of the lunar eclipse in Taurus. Okay. So hopefully this video gave you a sense of what that direction looks like, because that's pretty much how I wanted to put this across for us. Okay. Remember, cultural conditioning. We are shedding layers of ourselves that no longer represent our truth. We're grieving the attachment that we had to them. We're allowing ourselves to breathe into choosing things that really matter to us over things that are, oh, I should have this because this means this in social status, or this means that in, but to be more real with what it is that you want in your life. You want to surround yourself with things that you love. You want to surround yourself with things that reinforce your strength, your inspirations, your dreams, and such. So this is a beautiful opportunity to really look around you and ask yourself, what is it that I no longer need in my life? And then start looking at how those things can be cut out. And the deeper they are attached to you, the more time you need to process through that grief. The very subtle and superficial things, let it go. Okay. All right. Cool. So before you go, I want to announce to you all that, again, we are in a position where we are supporting those that are serious about deep soul transformation. Okay. You want to heal trauma. You want to understand how your soul has come to experience your life. You want to get a big picture of what it is that you actually have to do. Then, and if that sounds actually interesting to you, then Jen and I would like to invite you on a call where we'll take 15 minutes. It's free. And let's assess your needs. Let's see if there is an opportunity for us to work with you and the other way around. Okay. So if you're serious about wanting to really transform your inner sense of self, you want to understand your astrology chart deeper, like I said, you want to begin to understand the trauma within your life and to heal those dynamics, then beneath this video, pardon me, is an actual link. And all you need to do is click on the link and it will send you to a page. And all you need to do is fill out a quick form. It just gives us a sense of, where you're at and how we can sort of gather some information around what your needs are at this point in time. And then we'll hop on a call and we'll have a dialogue, see if we can support you in some way. And if we can, that's awesome. And if we can't, it doesn't mean that you won't have all these experiences, because we do feel that we're in a position where we can support in some way. So it is a really great opportunity to be able to connect with us. As you know, this is how you directly work with me going forward. This is the best way that I can utilize my time as well, and Jen's time. So if you're serious about transformation in any way and you want support in being able to accelerate that process, then click on the link below, set up a free 15-minute call with one of us, and we'll assess your needs, see if we can work with you. And yeah, okay. All right, guys, have an amazing week, and I'll see you as soon as possible. Bye.